Okay, so we are officially live, and I thank you all for being here. So this presentation took a bit, and this event took a bit to organize. There are a few people I should thank before I move forward. First of all, those who don't know me, I'm Asia. I'm a PhD candidate at University of Ferrara. My work is on cooperatives and circular economy, and I'm pleased to be involved in the Climate Circular COP project. Started a couple years ago with my PhD doctorate and sort of led the way. I'm pleased also with my colleague Ginevra Coletti. Will continue the process. She's younger, she just started. And what does Climate Circular COP do? Well, I will give it in a minute, but first of all, I'd like to thank also the University of Roma Tre and the PhD Environmental and Sustainability Wellbeing of the University of Ferrara is a PhD program, interdisciplinary. They helped with the organization of this event. We're also pleased to have the patronage of the Fondazione Barberini. So Bibellini is representing the foundation here today, so thank you very much. And also Cup for Less, which is a tiny project, one with the university, with the aim to understand how cooperatives and sustainability sort of happen along with this particular cooperative enterprise. And of course, we're also pleased to be with the patronage of Lega Coop Lombardia. We have the president who's arrived, so welcome. And what does Climate Circular COP do? There is a research project, of course, we handle academia, and the idea is to collect data on how cooperatives are tackling the ecological transition. But our project sort of doesn't stop there. First of all, we work with the Area Suri of Lega Coop. We have the president who will be closing words today, and then with the University of Roma Tre as well. But the idea is also to provide a network that will work with cooperatives and other alternative organizations as well. There's a LinkedIn QR code there, but the idea is to provide a network where young people in general interested in the idea of the cooperative movement can also collaborate with the private enterprise. So the idea of the private, public sector and the academia putting hands-on together on what it means to transition, because it's difficult for anybody. So, and the interviews that you see up above, so the website, Climate Circular COP, the website provides some interviews that we carried out both in Canada, where we had research abroad, so I was able to interview a few cooperatives there, tell the story, what it means to be a circular cooperative. And they're on the website, so you're free to check them out. I will stop here, and I'm very pleased to give the word to Attilio Dada. I will also thank you for your patience, since I will be providing translation with him. And please, you're welcome. I will add your presentation, and thank you very much for your attention. Allora, lei può andare avanti con le arrows e ogni tanto mi dia pausa che faccio la traduzione.
Perfetto. Bene. Dear colleagues, dear my friends, thank you for this invitation. Parlerò in italiano, ma soprattutto prima vorrei parlare con una frase in dialetto, un dialetto della mia terra, che dice che è un piacere, è un plaisir, eschi con viotolo in a discutere da sta tema, ma è importante oggi aggiungere e ringraziare i colleghi e le colleghe delle cooperative, il mondo accademico, a chi fa le ricerche, che studia la messa a terra del tema della sostenibilità, a ragionare con una visione un po' più ampia di quella che siamo di solito abituati a mettere in campo. Quindi è un onore per me essere qui, ringrazio anche il professor Mazzanti, l'Università di Ferrara, colleghi come Francesca, come Mattia e colleghi anche dell'ICA che sono presenti. Penso che sia giusto per noi partire dal locale e partire dal concetto che anche i dialetti, la nostra visione rinascimentale del mondo, è una visione che indica ed è stretta nell'ambito proprio del localismo, ma è sempre stata permeabile storicamente alla contaminazione e al rapporto con tutto quello che succedeva attorno. I dialetti riportano molte parole che provengono per noi dalle dominazioni, quindi riportano pezzi di spagnolo, pezzi di francese e anche nelle ultime parti anche parole di tedesco. Penso che però, per ragioni mie, voglio dire, per ragioni anagrafiche, per ragioni anche culturali, noi rappresentiamo l'ultima generazione che ha parlato con le generazioni precedenti con una lingua non ufficiale, con una lingua non scritta, ma che ha parlato in questa visione intergenerazionale pensando anche a definire qual era il rapporto e le dotazioni che venivano lasciate al futuro. Oggi non ho tempo, non riuscirò ad andare nel dettaglio su questo tema, ma penso che sia importante, noi che apparteniamo al mondo cooperativo e che facciamo della complessità il nostro valore aggiunto, non dimenticarci che quando parliamo di sostenibilità ambientale abbiamo anche un tema di questo tipo, cioè abbiamo il tema che quando abbiamo messo tutti i processi, abbiamo cercato di industrializzare ogni forma dei processi, di valore del cibo, della cultura, anche dell'identità locale, abbiamo comunque escluso, abbiamo tirato fuori da tutto questo ragionamento anche quello che era no profit, pensando che fosse un di cui, un valore, un non valore. Chi si occupa di sostenibilità ambientale in senso generale, di sostenibilità sociale, di sostenibilità appunto, io poi ci aggiungerò integrale durante la mia relazione, non può tener conto che oggi abbiamo davanti anche un problema di cultura e di identità.
He thanks for being here, and of course he so he thanks for being here. He thanks of the opportunity to talk about a very important topic, the idea that we're talking about heritage, local heritage. We're talking about relationship with many stakeholders that have to work with each other. Unfortunately, today he won't be able to go and develop the theme too much into detail, but the idea that when we talk about sustainability, we do it in such a way that is 360 degrees. And that's what most people involved in sustainability should do. Also with the relationship to nonprofits, which may be left out sometimes. He talks about the isolated communities, and there'll be a chance today to talk about their role into this.
Anche sulla base di queste premesse, di quanto vi dicevo prima sul riferimento culturale, io penso che sia importante partire da qui e ricordare questo fatto. La mia struttura di appartenenza, che è la struttura territoriale di Lega Co, che fa riferimento alla Lombardia, ha dedicato a Laura Conti, che è stata una partigiana, un medico, un ambientalista, una politica, una scrittrice, e che noi consideriamo la madre dell'ecologismo italiano, ha fatto 5 anni fa la prima dedica dichiarando e approvando all'unanimità la dichiarazione di emergenza climatica ed ecologica. L'abbiamo fatto come prima associazione di rappresentanza in Italia, ma la cosa che ancora oggi mi sconvolge è che restiamo l'unica organizzazione di imprese economiche ad aver avviato questo processo e questo percorso. L'abbiamo fatto sia sugli aspetti di governance associativa, ma l'abbiamo fatto anche con un piano di azione declinato, l'abbiamo fatto anche parlando alle cooperative associate, parlando a tutte le imprese, parlando alle istituzioni. E ovviamente non è un tema di greenwashing, non è un tema di marketing, non è solo un tema di come ci rappresentiamo all'esterno. Al contrario, noi pensiamo che un nuovo ordine economico passi attraverso l'effettiva compensazione di quello che oggi è l'uso delle risorse ambientali e, se volete, attraverso una consapevolezza chiara di come l'emergenza climatica ormai impatta anche sul fatto economico e sul budget o sull'attività e la tenuta e la continuità di un'impresa. Non è un vincolo, quindi non va interpretata come un peso, come un orpello, ma come una vera e propria opportunità che bisogna sì ripensare nel nuovo quadro dal punto di vista socio-economico. Limiti e sviluppo sono un tema, crescita e libero mercato ormai sono un tema che non ci appartengono più nella discussione dal punto di vista della sostenibilità.
So considering the above consideration again, he makes a special dedication, as you see up here, to Laura Conti, an Italian anti-fascist partisan, doctor, environmentalist, politician, writer of the 20th century, known as the founder of the environmentalism in Italy. Again, he mentioned the Lega Coop Lombardia adopted a climate and ecological emergency declaration. To this day, the idea is to provide a meticulous plan of action dedicated to the governance on one side, but then tailored to what are representing all the stakeholders of associations in general and other institutions. The idea is to consider that we wanted to draw the attention to the urgency of building what is considered a new economic order through renewed awareness of the climate emergency. It's not about being a burden or embellishment. Signing the declaration meant a real opportunity to rethink some of the principles that we're trying to place into actions. So the idea is to provide guidelines to make concrete actions on a daily management of the various activities that are required to move to what is the ecological transition and circular economy. And therefore, also that includes the cooperative movement as standing out throughout history to oppose of the economical industrial system based on exploitation, which opposition originates from the awareness that people always come before the capital and that capital must be at the service of people. And this, today, the awareness is even deeper and affects us even more deeply.
Ci sono delle azioni concrete che noi però dobbiamo prendere in capo e cominciare a introdurle nella gestione quotidiana delle attività che riguardano le imprese, con l'obiettivo sì di ridurre le riduzioni, ridurre le emissioni clima alteranti, ma soprattutto per ripensare noi dall'interno le filiere, i processi produttivi e l'economia circolare. Serve preservare e rigenerare il concetto di biodiversità urbana, agricola e naturale, e non solo limitarci all'aspetto quindi limitato al livello di produzione e ai cicli produttivi interni. Serve ed è necessario avere ampio il concetto del diritto alla qualità dell'aria, del suolo e dell'acqua. Lo dico da una delle regioni che ancora questa volta ha portato a casa il premio per avere il maggior livello di inquinamento a livello italiano. Lo dico per essere parte di quella pianura padana che tocca ancora oggi in ogni inverno e indipendentemente dal cambiamento climatico tocca ormai punti altissimi di contaminazioni sulla qualità dell'aria. Non lo dico guardando e leggendo l'aspetto, voglio dire, epidemiologico dello studio, lo dico perché questo ha un impatto sul sistema produttivo, sulle persone che vi lavorano, sul sistema sociale, che non è solo visibile da un punto di vista economico, ha degli impatti che noi dobbiamo tenere presente quando ragioniamo sul sistema e sul concetto di sostenibilità. Penso anche che storicamente noi come movimento cooperativo questa partita ce l'abbiamo scritta nel DNA, storicamente nasciamo proprio in polemica rispetto al sistema economico industriale di sfruttamento e contro questo sfruttamento di sistema noi ci siamo opposti in più volte, in più situazioni, mettendo al centro il ruolo della persona e spostando invece il perno che è sul capitale. Questo è un tema che va anche da un punto di vista ideologico e da un punto di vista politico. Non mi interessa oggi analizzarlo sotto questo punto di vista, lo dico perché è un tema centrale però nella discussione e fa parte della cassetta degli attrezzi dei dirigenti e dei manager che devono prendere in mano le scelte che dovranno fare dal punto di vista imprenditoriale. Lo dico in questo modo, anche il tema della comunità e il tema delle persone al centro riguarda il concetto delle future generazioni. Quindi è come allungare la scala del tempo, allungare la scala al tempo guardando l'impatto, è come riportare anche la concatenazione dei sistemi naturali all'interno delle previsioni strategiche. È un'altra dimensione rispetto a quelle che siamo normalmente abituati a vederla solo in una matrice piana che riguarda capitale, lavoro e soldi. Questo è un concetto che per noi deve diventare anche una parte importante e che non è leggibile in nessuno dei business plan che facciamo normalmente a medio e lungo termine. Forse non solo non viene letto, ma non viene neanche visto da un punto di vista di scelta strategica.
So he mentioned the 2023 edition also of the Cooperatives Day, because the idea is that he says that social causes and the operativity of this ecological transition and what the work of who he represents, they're trying today. So the idea is the commitment on all fields of interest that regard also access to fresh water, access to education, inclusion of various people, individuals into the from the community, reducing emissions, and so forth. The idea that we need to change not only mindset, but trying to include this also in the studies that we carry out.
Sì, infatti per darvi un'altra dimensione, lo scorso 2 luglio, in occasione della Giornata internazionale delle cooperative, giornata promossa annualmente dall'ONU e dall'International Cooperative Alliance, di cui faccio parte del board, Lega Coop Lombardia ha deciso di dedicare quella giornata riprendendo il tema del fiume, il concetto del fiume con correlazione diretta, direi, col rapporto con le comunità. Ma il tema era invitare le nostre cooperative a riscoprire la cultura del fiume, aggregandola anche a un concetto di identità editoriale e di non vedere i fiumi come lo è il bacino del Po, come è anche il fiume che poco distante arriva anche a Ferrara e che è il fiume più importante di questo paese, diventi un bene più collettivo e una risorsa e non un limite o per la siccità o un problema per le alluvioni. È l'impiego consapevole della risorsa che non è legata ai momenti critici, ma anche un percorso di sviluppo sostenibile. Penso che le cooperative da questo punto di vista possono fare di più, penso che lo stanno facendo, vi porterò poi alcuni esempi, ma soprattutto penso che in termini strategici noi dobbiamo ancora essere pionieri e frequentare anche la frontiera più difficile, frequentare almeno i luoghi non comodi che sono la frontiera tra ambiente ed economia.
So as I mentioned before, he talked about International Cooperative Day, the UN mentioned, so it's the 2023 edition, celebrated by the International Cooperative Alliance as well. And Lega Coop Lombardia decided to actively take part into this and consider that cooperatives for accelerated sustainable development was celebrated. And during this navigation, as you can see, cooperative guests were invited to rediscover the river culture in order to redesign our local identity and become aware of the necessity to make rivers in Lombardy and also in the Po Valley, which does flow down to Ferrara, are considered public goods to be shared with the collectivity. Fresh water is not meant to be taken into consideration only as an economic resource or when major catastrophic events occur, as we had seen with floods in Emilia-Romagna. The path towards sustainable cooperative development must include a clear vision. And born 140 years ago, cooperation cannot count only on its history, and should rather be able to renovate itself in the current challenging conditions.
Sì, con 140 anni di storia il movimento cooperativo italiano, uno dei movimenti cooperativi più longevi al mondo, ha comunque davanti il tema di come non tanto andare all'appuntamento storico, ma di come guardare e prepararsi alle sfide della contemporaneità. Questo vuol dire anche reinterpretare in base ai nostri principi e valori l'impegno che abbiamo verso la collettività, oltre alla continuità amministrativa e alla continuità aziendale. Il tema centrale dunque è come la transizione ecologica può diventare un percorso per obiettivi e per punti comuni e non una mera diluizione di azioni. Non serve e non ci aiuta in questo modo continuare a dilazionare tempi e forme per conservare un modello produttivo attuale che ha già dato evidenti limiti alla propria crescita. Siamo di fronte a un cambiamento di paradigma che è sia di natura sociale che economica e noi dobbiamo affrontarlo con degli schemi che abbiano il fiato molto più lungo di quelli che stiamo mettendo in campo oggi. È innegabile che la crisi del sistema è anche una crisi del sistema economico e capitalistico e finanziario. Un sistema post-novecentesco che continua comunque, nonostante tutto, anche in questa situazione, a depauperare le risorse, a rifiutare la limitatezza, a disperdere disponibilità multigenerazionali e soprattutto fa uso di una leva finanziaria troppo rapace che molte volte impatta direttamente sui diritti. Impatta sul diritto al lavoro, sul diritto alla salute, sullo sviluppo delle comunità locali. Non ho bisogno di ricordarvi quello che ci ha messo in luce, in evidenza e ha fatto alzare la testa dal punto di vista della crescita. È bastato un virus, è bastata una crisi da un punto di vista finanziario con le guerre e con l'energia. Oggi anche l'inflazione ci ricorda che questo sistema è un sistema che va ripreso. Serve a poco, ma lo ricordo solo per dare una visione molto più alta del tema che stiamo discutendo oggi, dal Santo Padre ai più importanti economisti internazionali, ormai il richiamo e l'invito al cambiamento è forte ed è evidente.
The crucial point of the awaited ecological transition is now to pursue a shared path, as already said before. An agreement on this new socioeconomic paradigm can no longer be postponed. We are faced with the undeniable crisis of the capitalist system, which today has pulverized all resources and devalued multi-generational availability. leaving room for the financial leverage ratio to affect all kinds of rights. Workers, welfare, rights of the local communities, as well as proven from the virus and the actual which is the actual productive model, inappropriate more than ever. From Pope Francis to international economists, all agree on the need for change.
L'impegno quindi deve essere rivolto direttamente a un concetto di sostenibilità integrale che parte dalla parità di genere, arriva alla formazione, arriva all'inclusione anche di soggetti svantaggiati e va alla riduzione delle emissioni, e deve essere soprattutto un insieme di azioni che rinuncia all'uso delle risorse fossili e limitate per ricostruire anche il concetto di biodiversità in tutte le forme, senza tralasciare l'aspetto sociale che a noi interessa in modo particolare. Va messo al centro il lavoro di qualità, il lavoro fatto di tutta la filiera e la ricaduta sulle comunità locali. Non è solo una fase produttiva, è un concetto nuovo anche in termini di qualità della vita e di aspettative. In termini imprenditoriali penso che la sostenibilità integrale rappresenta una strategia di sviluppo che va a ridefinire anche il concetto di crescita, va verso un nuovo paradigma diverso e più sostenibile e soprattutto verso un avanzamento del concetto che noi abbiamo di crescita. O si accettano radicalmente le sfide oppure andremo semplicemente a compiere delle azioni limitative senza cambiare né la modalità né l'agire. Ritengo che dobbiamo invece ridefinire il bilancio aziendale anche a partire dalla sua nomenclatura. Accanto allo stato patrimoniale e al conto economico dovremmo inserire il bilancio ambientale e lo stato sociale e dovremmo introdurre queste tematiche come pilastri della tenuta delle attività economiche e non solo come allegati dei nostri sistemi e del nostro modo di comunicare i dati economici. Dobbiamo preoccuparci anche che la visione del territorio e della collettività sono parti essenziali all'interno delle quali noi operiamo scelte di crescita e scelte di sviluppo. E da questo punto di vista è importante il concetto della maggior biodiversità, della non banalizzazione delle risorse naturali, perché abbiamo visto e scoperto con l'abbandono o con la tendenza all'abbandono delle strutture fossili che l'appuntamento non solo non è più rinnovabile, ma per noi diventa anche fondamentale ragionare su involucri nuovi, produttivi e abitativi più efficienti, più efficaci e soprattutto siamo così in grado di rispondere meglio agli eventi climatici estremi.
So we should shape our sustainability commitment in order to include all fields of interest, from gender equality to access to education, from inclusion of disadvantaged individuals to reducing emissions, aligning a carbon neutral society without neglecting the social aspect, planning the quality of the work and the local communities in a central position. A comprehensive sustainability should encourage enterprises to undertake a whole new development strategy, implying a different growth paradigm which leads to long-term sustainable development. Any other solution not involving a change of mindset would be nothing but a palliative care. From my perspective, every company's balance sheet should be accompanied by a sustainability report, so the environmental and social dimensions can shape the economic activity and not vice versa. But why should we keep focusing on carbon footprint, biodiversity, and local communities only? And then, of course, he mentions the fact that the Italian territory, of course, is very important, and the idea that it has been tackled, and the ability for the territory and the community to resisting what is the challenges of climate change that we've also seen. And we can learn to live without fossil fuels, which of course can no longer be postponed.
Dopo aver fatto tutte queste considerazioni di ordine generale, io penso che noi dobbiamo declinare alcuni esempi, alcune buone pratiche, riportare alcuni esempi concreti per dire qual è la linea di indirizzo e qual è la strada che noi stiamo intraprendendo. Prendo ad esempio la rendicontazione che un settore particolare, alcune nostre cooperative hanno messo in campo utilizzando l'incentivazione del super bonus del 110 per le cooperative a proprietà indivisa con immobili a canoni di godimento e quindi intergenerazionali e di passaggio di proprietà, restando sempre di proprietà collettiva. Noi qui abbiamo esempi assolutamente importanti. Cito il caso prima milanese e poi della vostra città. Il caso milanese è quello riferito alla cooperativa di Abitare, che si chiama Cooperativa Abitare, che è emblematico, dove sono stati efficientati in questi ultimi 3 anni 2.520 alloggi a proprietà collettiva, sono stati posizionati 12.000 serramenti sostituiti, 116 pozzi geotermici realizzati, 120.000 metri quadrati di cappotto isolati, 419 kW di potenza fotovoltaico installata. E sempre a Milano, a partire da Abitare, stiamo ragionando sulla costituzione e sulla realizzazione della prima comunità energetica in forma cooperativa, che è la forma più innovativa di cooperativa che noi pensiamo in questo settore e che si avvicina di più al concetto che abbiamo definito di sostenibilità integrale. Questo ad esempio è un esempio che ci mette in campo un'idea di sistema energetico anche nazionale per renderlo democratico, consapevole, ma per rendere anche il sistema in sé più partecipato, più cooperativo, meno monopolistico. È un'occasione anche per coinvolgere i soci, stimolare la partecipazione e promuovere anche nuova cooperazione. Sempre su Ferrara è noto il caso della cooperativa degli abitanti Castello con l'iniziativa che sta per essere intrapresa di comunità energetica in forma cooperativa e che anche qui riguarda un numero considerevole, sono oltre 800 gli alloggi di proprietà collettiva e molti dei quali sono stati efficientati in questi ultimi mesi.
So he talks about the energy communities and provides a few examples of also the project that have been undergone. The first one is, so the whole concept is the idea that it is the most innovative version of the cooperative living, the energy community. The first one was founded actually 10 years ago, and it's called De Nostra. And it produces and supplies green energy thanks to its unique shared model. In Milan, housing cooperatives are taking the first step, as well as sustainable communities. Abitare has already kicked off its Solido energy community to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and promote energy independence. He mentions also Respira, which is a project by Lega Coop, which literally means breathe, an online platform conceived to stimulate connections and foster the creation of energy communities. And again, he talks about the examples of this
Siamo
project.
più avanti rispetto a cosa, ma va benissimo perché il concetto è quello di con Respira e con
Avevo sentito Respira, quindi avevo preso ok.
No, ma va bene, tanto ci arriviamo lo
provando.
stesso, perché dopo l'esempio di come il patrimonio condiviso dal punto di vista degli abitanti è stato rigenerato e rimesso in condizioni di efficienza e come stanno lavorando con le nuove comunità energetiche, noi abbiamo anche il caso della più grande cooperativa italiana in forma di comunità energetica, proprio in forma esclusivamente cooperativa, con soci sovventori, con interventi su impianti che realizzano energia e vanno in autoproduzione con energia al 100% rinnovabile. Così come la cooperativa Abitare, che ha fatto invece un secondo livello di comunità energetica. E mi piace sottolineare un terzo aspetto, tanto per dire come aumenta la varietà quando si usano e si danno risposte ai bisogni. È il caso ad esempio anche di Unihabita, che ha fatto una cooperativa di comunità energetica rispondendo però in maniera particolare alla povertà energetica del quartiere, non ai singoli soci e ai singoli occupanti delle loro abitazioni. Questo per dire che c'è sempre questa visione tra la comunità, il socio e la cooperativa, anche quando non c'è uno scambio mutualistico diretto sullo stesso tema. Ed è uno di risposte ai principi base della cooperazione, che è il principio di relazione con la comunità. Il fondo di Lega Coop, CoFond, inoltre da anni ha avviato una piattaforma e un sistema che aiuta la costituzione di nuove forme di comunità energetica in forma cooperativa. Dico tutto questo per dire che ormai siamo nella condizione di dire che quello non è più la nuova frontiera delle cooperative. È un tema già importante, un tema che già dà molto spazio e dà molta visibilità all'attività della cooperazione in un settore importante come questo che stiamo definendo ora della transizione energetica. Dovremmo anche condividere, dovremmo fare un passo in avanti cercando oggi di andare invece a frequentare alcuni luoghi che non sono luoghi abituali di analisi della sostenibilità e della cooperazione insieme, che sono invece le aree che in Italia usiamo definire come aree interne e aree marginali. Penso che lì ci sia ad esempio una forza in più per raggiungere il tema della cooperazione e per legarlo alla sostenibilità. Penso alle aree interne, penso alle aree a parchi regionali, a parchi nazionali, penso ai territori che noi dichiariamo fragili, penso dove si possa mettere in campo un'operazione di risposta collettiva a bisogni sociali e a bisogni anche di qualità della vita o di ricolonizzazione di alcune aree del paese, dove possono nascere cooperative di comunità, promuovere anche cooperazione di prossimità e stare all'interno di una visione e di nuovo riconcetto del bene comune.
So he also talks about the relationship between community and cooperation. There's a need to actually envision this as something that unites together. And of course, the example that I mentioned before and that he mentions are an example of projects that are aiming to do this. He mentioned Unihabita, which is a project to provide it's a corporate network that is against energy poverty. So one important thing about ecological transition is to include also the discussion about energy communities, the concept of community and cooperative movement. And of course, the idea of these projects is to unite what are these aims. And again, the example of Enostra is one of these. So as energy communities are a new functioning model, the idea that it can also involve citizens and they can actually be part of this transition.
Sì, in quest'ultima parte e mi avvio alla conclusione dell'intervento, io penso che il concetto di sostenibilità e di cooperazione stia insieme e leghi anche il concetto di bene collettivo e di bellezza. Penso che sia fondamentale per noi andare anche a risondare, a riscrivere, a reinventare, a rivedere il modo in cui una gestione che normalmente è affidata solo al pubblico possa avere invece l'interesse e la vista collettiva, possa avere invece l'impegno della collettività attraverso la cooperazione per riprendersi parte di un territorio, di luoghi che abitiamo, che frequentiamo, di beni come fiumi, come montagne, come colline, come anche beni monumentali e beni storici. Per darvi l'idea concreta che quello che sto dicendo ci sono esempi e forme pratiche, vi cito ad esempio la cooperativa Teatro Tascabile di Bergamo in Città Alta, una cooperativa che è nata dalla collettività, dai residenti della città storica, della parte alta della città storica, che ha recuperato un bene storico e artistico come era un ex convento, l'ha trasformato in un chiostro e intorno a quel chiostro ha creato una nuova piazza, ha fatto una scuola di teatro, è diventato un punto nuovo che lega socialità, recupero del patrimonio, valore storico, ed è anche il primo caso in Italia di partenariato pubblico-privato. Sempre se restiamo in pianura, restiamo nelle terre dei nostri fiumi, penso anche al caso della cooperativa Pantacon di Mantova, che si è reinventata una proposta soprattutto per turisti stranieri che rivede un attimo il turismo di prossimità, che è un turismo diverso da quello che siamo abituati a presentare, dove si ritorna nella quotidianità per non consumare frettolosamente la vista di beni e di valenza storica che per noi sembrano scontati, ma per chi ha una minor densità di beni storici e culturali non è così all'interno dell'altra parte del mondo. Si recuperano i piccoli musei, si recupera anche la memoria delle parole, delle persone che incontri, della sapienza, di quello che c'è in un piatto, nella tradizione enogastronomica e quello che c'è nel fiume. E tutto questo è possibile però se abbiamo anche, insieme alle visioni strategiche e scientifiche che ci sono date dai temi sulla sostenibilità, anche lo spirito dei visionari, il fatto di pensare largo, di avere una visione lunga, di ricercare alleanze, di non farla da solo, di mettere al centro la comunità e soprattutto di pensare alla maniera cooperativa storica delle nostre terre.
So if we connect the concept of culture, words, history, and community, the idea of maintaining all of this, and the cooperative movement can actually do so. The cooperative space is by very nature a fertile ground to nurture the communities. And there are a few examples. So the idea the cooperative effort can maintain rivers, mountains, hills, coastlines, and the values that goes beyond just the economic exploitability must be the very core of these communities. He makes a few examples: Teatro Tascabile, Cooperative Theater in Bergamo, or Cooperative Pentagon is in Mantua. The cooperative was able to settle a project of tourism, a fresh look at all those places that apparently are too close and familiar, and we forget to appreciate. And the idea that we can actually welcome tourist community, foreigners, as well as other Italians to join into these efforts of local prosperity.
E sono certo che quindi il modello cooperativo, anche di fronte alle sfide che stiamo discutendo della sostenibilità, è il modello che si sta più diffondendo e che praticamente ha messo in campo maggiori idee, forme sperimentali, e ha dimostrato anche l'efficacia della sua azione. Lo penso anche non solo guardando l'esperienza del nostro paese, ma tutto quello che conosco all'interno del rapporto con gli altri movimenti cooperativi in Europa e nel resto del mondo. E quando le persone sono al centro, le persone sono anche in connessione tra di loro, si nasce e si cambia e si fa soprattutto quello che noi oggi potremmo definire il concetto di un neomutualismo, cioè si sta cominciando a pensare, a dire che la leva intergenerazionale insieme allo sviluppo sostenibile sia un agente trasformante, un agente fondamentale di cambiamento. Io vorrei chiudere ricordandovi che nel Novecento gli slogan che usavano gli ambientalisti italiani ed europei erano slogan importanti e ancora attuali. Era, ad esempio, pensare globalmente, agire localmente o fare per un mondo migliore. Bene, io penso che questi slogan siano attualmente ancora tutti nello stesso lì, ancora nella stessa funzione, con le stesse aspettative. E noi, per quanto ci compete, come movimento cooperativo italiano, come esperienze di cooperative di Lega Coop, come insieme ci sentiamo parte del movimento cooperativo internazionale, dobbiamo semplicemente aggiungere la parola cooperando. Valgono gli stessi lo slogan, bisogna farlo insieme, bisogna unire le forze, bisogna pensare a trovare una soluzione alla crisi del sistema che ormai è evidente. Grazie dell'attenzione, grazie ad Asia.
Just to translate a few of his closing words, he said that I'm sure that the cooperative model and his countless version around the world can be the most convincing model to experiment what is the post-capitalistic solutions, where people can work in synergy together and share what are all the same values. Of course, he talks about the Italian cooperative movement as well, but he feels that they're involved in the international cooperative movement, and he reminds of a 20th century environmental slogan where we think global, act local. So cooperatives for a better world, joining our collective forces to overcome the crisis of the system. Thank you very much to the president of Lega Coop Lombardy for your intervention. It's free for questions, so of course, if you do have any, you're free to ask the president. No, but we will have space at the end, so thank you very much again.
Monica, I can see you are online. If you have your slides to share, I will introduce you.
Monica, can you hear me? Yes? We can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
You have a few slides to share, yes? And then I will introduce.
Yeah, I'm going to try to share the slides.
Just a few introductions while she manages the slide. Monica Pisani, she's a policy officer from DG Klima, European Commission, and she will talk about a few arguments about the ecological transition and the cooperative movement from a European Union perspective.
Thank you very much, Asia. I'm trying to upload the slides. I'm not familiar with this platform. I've never used this platform on a hybrid conference, so let's see if it works. Somebody in your team can help sharing the slides if I don't manage from here. They seem to be uploading, but I'm not sure whether they can be seen. Yes, I seem to be seeing them.
I will share the slides and you can move forward directly on your screen and you're free to start. Let me just put them on the main screen, yes?
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So happy to be here today. My name is Monica Pisani, and despite my Italian sounding name, I'm not actually Italian. I am from Finland, so apologies for not being able to address you in Italian today. I work for the European Commission in Brussels for DG Climate Action, specifically in charge of stakeholder and civil society relations. So I'm going to today present to you in brief the EU's response to the global climate crisis, the Green Deal and its trajectory to climate neutrality, this being an agenda of emissions reductions combined with increasing societal preparedness and resilience that we need in the face of the effects of climate change, not least that we're seeing in the form of changed weather patterns. I will also briefly touch upon the Climate Pact, the Just Transition Agenda, and a few words on EU support for cooperatives, the Covenant of Mayors, and finally, a word on the link between the European Green Deal and Sustainable Development Goals. So just going to the next slide. Basically, I mean, you all know that the situation is alarming. According to future projections, the younger generation will live through significant warming, according to projections. A person like myself, born in the 80s, will live to see low to intermediate warming, whereas our children will live to experience high to very high warming. And just a word on the EU citizens' attitudes towards climate change. So people continue to be concerned with climate change, and support for climate action is continuously high. So we can see in surveys, this comes from the Eurobarometer 2023, where, okay, there is a little bit of, it varies from country to country, the attitudes towards climate change, but overall, people in Europe are very concerned with climate change, and the support for action is high. Sorry, I forgot to change the slide for you. This was the slide I just presented. Yeah, this is just a little bit more information about how Europeans feel about climate change. So almost 8 in 10 Europeans think that climate change is a very serious problem, and 93% say climate change is a serious problem. Now, linking back to the slide with the future projections for warming, so what will then happen in practice if we do not act? And here are just a few examples. Without action on climate change, namely, then we are moving to a 3-degree warming by 2100. And then, so that means already within your lifetime, we would see quite some huge impacts. Just picking out a few from here. So ranging from economic losses, looking at welfare loss of at least 175 billion, or looking at water scarcity with 65 million people living in areas with water resources under stress, or even just flooding, nearly 50 billion per year in economic losses due to increased flooding frequency and severity, or to mention wildfires, that we would see a 24% increase of number of people exposed to high to extreme fire danger levels. And now, so what else happens if we do not act? Well, there's going to be a situation of increased conflict and insecurity. So we will also see hundreds of millions of climate migrants. We would see water and food scarcity issues increasing. And just to note that over 50% of the world's population is expected to be living in water-stressed regions by 2050. So that is pretty serious. Now, just turning to the positive side of what we are trying to do and what we are doing to take action. So in the EU, as you know, we have collectively managed to achieve the ratification of the Paris Agreement in 2015, with the goal of limiting the global warming to 1.5 degrees as compared to pre-industrial levels. And domestically within the EU, we have the European Green Deal, with climate neutrality by 2050 as a binding legal obligation. We have had the climate law adopted and the subsequent Fit for 55 package coming out, which I will also mention shortly. So first, looking at the big picture, the European Green Deal is the EU's growth strategy, aiming for net zero emissions by 2050, including policies not only to make EU climate neutral, which I mentioned already, but also a plan to accelerate investment in renewables, to protect forests and biodiversity, encourage sustainable agriculture, and promoting low emission transportation, to mention a few, because there are still other things, but that's just highlighting a few, particularly relevant within the climate and energy policy field. And all of this whilst ensuring a socially just transition. So the Fit for 55 law will reduce emissions in the EU by at least 55% by 2030. But then what will happen in the 20 years between 2030 and 2050? This is very relevant now because this week the Commission has published a detailed impact assessment on possible pathways to reach the agreed goal of making the EU climate neutral by 2050. Based on this impact assessment, the Commission recommends a 90% net greenhouse gas emission reduction by 2040 compared to 1990 levels. And with this, we are launching a discussion with all stakeholders, and a legislative proposal will be made by the next Commission after the European elections and agreed with the European Parliament and Member States as required under the EU climate law. So this recommendation that we've just made is in line with the advice of the European Scientific Advisory Board on climate change and the EU's commitment under the Paris Agreement. Setting a 2040 climate target will help European industry, investors, citizens and governments to make decisions in this decade that will keep the EU on track to meet its climate neutrality objective by 2050. It will also send important signals on how to invest and plan effectively for the longer term. And additionally, it will also boost Europe's resilience against future crises and notably strengthen the EU's energy independence from fossil fuel imports, which accounted for over 4% of GDP in 2022. I already mentioned the costs and human impacts of climate change. They are increasingly large and visible. In the last 5 years alone, climate-related economic damage in Europe is estimated at 170 billion euros. And the Commission's estimate says that even with conservative estimates, higher global warming as a result of inaction could lower the EU's GDP by about 7% by the end of the century. Just a word on the another upcoming initiative that's coming later this spring. So the emissions reduction is one part of the story. At the same time, to tackle climate change, we need to also promote resilient societies and economies. And for this, we have been preparing the EU's first ever climate risk assessment. This publication of the first UCRA is scheduled in March 2024. And afterwards, a Commission communication will recommend actions to take on this. Now, I'd like to turn to the importance of collective action and the importance of bringing everybody on board on this to tackle the crisis that we're facing. So for this purpose, we have also the Climate Pact, which is the European Green Deal practically on the ground. So it's clear that the European Green Deal can only succeed if we all come together to develop solutions and build networks for change. For the net zero transition to succeed, we need a whole of society approach that leaves no one behind. And the Climate Pact is a movement of people united around a common cause for a more sustainable Europe. And the idea is that everyone has a place in the pact. It's a chance for people, communities, and organizations to participate in climate action across Europe, by learning about climate change, developing and implementing solutions, and connecting with others to maximize the impact. I can mention that recently under the pact, there exists already a large number of climate pact ambassadors that we collaborate with. I think we have some 800 climate pact ambassadors that take active action against climate change across Europe. And we have recently also expanded the pact to involve also organizations. So now we want to start also collaborating with organizations, and not only organizations active in the environmental and climate area, but organizations, non-profit organizations that are active in the field of arts or education, culture, any other fields which will enable us to work with multipliers to spread the message about the need for everyone to take action against climate change, not only amongst those who are already engaged, but moving beyond. So organizations clearly play an important role in advocating for social and environmental justice during the transition by raising awareness, engaging communities, and holding decision makers accountable. In a time of increasing polarization in society overall, our response to climate change could become actually a unifying agenda that promotes well-being, jobs, competitiveness, as well as planetary and societal resilience for all. We clearly need a just transition that supports retraining and reskilling workers to prepare them for new jobs. And for that purpose, we have the Just Transition Fund, which aims to facilitate this transition by providing financial support. So we have the Social Climate Fund, which consists of, well, some of the revenue from the EU emissions trading scheme goes to a new social climate fund. And this is meant to then be supporting the most vulnerable and affected EU citizens with some 86 billion over the period 2026 to 2032. And this will help mitigate the costs for those most exposed and to ensure that the transition is fair and leaves no one behind. And just a few words on the support of cooperatives. The EU recognizes the vital role of cooperatives and actively works to create an enabling environment for their success. The EU's Recovery and Resilience Plan allocates substantial funds to address the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and promote resilient and inclusive societies. And it outlines the need for reforms to promote entrepreneurship and the social economy, which includes cooperative enterprises as the main actors. So cooperatives can benefit from this plan, which provides grants and loans for public investment and reforms. Cities are at the forefront of the fight against climate change. With 75% of the EU's population living in urban areas, cities have a key role to play in transitioning to a low carbon future and strengthening societal preparedness for the impacts of climate change. Following the adoption of the Fit for 55 legislation, focus is now shifting to ensuring the implementation of the updated EU climate and energy legislation at all levels. And so in that context, alongside national governments, leadership and action by regional and local authorities is essential for achieving our climate goals and accelerating the transition to a net zero economy. And the European Commission is committed to supporting cities in their efforts to reduce emissions and adapt to the unavoidable impacts of climate change. So we have now about 11,000 cities and towns under the initiative called Covenant of Mayors for Climate Energy. And this is not only a network of local authorities, but it offers recognized science-based methodology for planning, implementing, and monitoring energy and climate action at local level. And now, finally, a quick word on the link between the European Green Deal and the Sustainable Development Goals. They're closely linked. The EU is committed to delivering the 17 SDGs and have placed sustainable development at its core and is making efforts to advance the 2030 agenda, both at home and around the world. All sectors of the economy, including agriculture, industry, services, energy, finance, transport, and construction, are concerned. And since 2020, every Commission work program put the SDGs at the heart of EU policymaking. So that means that SDGs are then mainstreamed into EU policies and guide policymaking and lawmaking in the EU. So proposed legislation must include an assessment of how it contributes to delivering on the SDGs. Based on this overarching direction, the whole of government approach focuses on delivering concrete internal and external actions that will bring about progress towards the SDGs. We had the first EU Sustainable Development Goal voluntary review last year in May, and it shows, unfortunately, it does show that there isn't enough progress. Well, since 2015, there has been some progress across all SDGs, but not so much on the goals that link to the environment and climate change. According to the most recent data, the EU performed best on ensuring decent work and economic growth, reducing poverty, and fostering peace, security, and inclusive societies and institutions. However, external adverse shocks are putting a strain on the post-pandemic recovery and progress on sustainable development in the EU and globally. And it slowed down, progress slowed down in 2020 as a consequence of multiple crises, the polycrises that we are faced with. And really, bottom line is more progress is needed on many SDGs, in particular those related to the protection and sustainable use of natural resources. So that's, in a nutshell, what I wanted to present to you, finishing off with a quote from our president, Ursula von der Leyen, showing how Europe is really the first continent to declare to be climate neutral in 2050. And now we are also the first ones to put a concrete roadmap on the table. So we're trying to walk the talk on climate policies through innovation, investment, and social compensation. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. I unfortunately cannot stay for very long. I need to leave literally in 3 minutes for another meeting. So perhaps if there is one question, I have the time to give a quick reaction. Otherwise, happy to follow up with email after with Asia if there is any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If there are questions from the audience, we can have a microphone circulating. I will ask for my colleague Oksana to support me in this. Please just raise your hand and we'll bring the microphone to you. Thank you very much, Monica.
Questions? Francesca, you had a question? No? Sorry, I saw you raise your hand.
No. Can I actually ask a question if there is no one? I don't know if you can see me. My name is Oksana. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Ferrara. And I wanted to ask you, actually I have a question and a comment. Question, how does the EU intend to decrease the ecological impact while continuing economic growth? And my comment is about the use of the word Europe. As a European coming not from the European Union, I'm kind of concerned by putting an equation between the EU and Europe because it's excluding the experience of so many countries that are in Europe but not part of the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. So I guess it consists of two questions actually. And on the second part, well, we do actually have a lot of cooperation also with neighboring countries and so on. So it's not only like there are many things that also apply to neighboring countries beyond those that have already ratified and that are formally part of the European Union. And that's also, I think, clearly the EU approach is to collaborate with partners internationally and within the neighborhood. And on the first question about ecological protection and economic growth, well, the idea is to find indeed a way to, I mean, there are clear signs to show that we can do a transition which is carbon neutral and still create jobs and still create quality of life. So that's the point, that there is a means to find a way to live well within the limits of the planet, within the planetary boundaries. There is actually, well, that is our long-term EU environmental strategy that all EU member states have signed up to, a long-term vision apart from the carbon neutrality one, which is now a law. We also have this other vision, which is the that by 2050 we would all be able to live well within planetary boundaries. And this is the 8th Environment Action Program that all European Union members have also signed up to. So this is the goal, and this is what we're trying to do in practice through the regulation and other means, by putting the funding in the right direction and so on. So thank you very much for that question. And I am afraid that I will need to leave now, but Asia, please do, if there are other follow-up questions, I'm very happy to follow up by email after the meeting, because I need to go to another meeting at 15:30.
Well, thank you again, Monica, and for your enthusiastic presentation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
So now I'm excited to make this a little more interactive with you as well. I call to sit here at this wonderful table the 3 speakers that will happen next for the roundtable. So I call here Salvatore Monni, Economic Policy Full Professor from Roma Tre University, who will present and also chair this roundtable. Then Jos Bijman, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Chair of the International Cooperative Alliance, Committee on the Cooperative Research in Europe, and then Francesca Montalti, Industrial Sector responsible from Lega Coop National. They will each provide a short presentation, and then we provide a few questions for the roundtable, and that will also mean that your intervention and questions will be more than welcome. Thank you. Yes, of course. I just kindly ask you if you can sit mostly on this side and speak very closely to the mic. Yeah, sit both here and just scooch that way so that the audience can see you. Okay, can see you. Okay. Salvatore, the word is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Asia. It's a pleasure to be in Ferrara today. Ferrara, in fact, is now my second city, and I will to give special thanks to Massimiliano, that is a friend before than colleagues, and Asia and Ginevra for the wonderful welcome as usual. Thank you. I will try just to give a brief introduction to provide some idea for our roundtable discussion, with particular reference to the role played by education, considering the place full of history and tradition in which we are now in this moment. The title of my speech is Zeitgeist, Educating Diversity is the title of the speech that I will try to give you. In order to function correctly, institutions must be products of the spirit of the age. So, Zeitgeist. If they are not only will they not help a country to develop, but they will become an obstacle. This is true for international institutions, such as the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, of the World Bank. It's applied to rules, which are also institutions for the economists, as in Bretton Woods system, and it's also true for the enterprise, and obviously for cooperative enterprise. I would to try to recall some myths about cooperative, company missions, management, and training must adapt so they are competitive and work as efficiently as possible in the world which they operate. Good education and training are fundamental to understanding the spirit of the age. Good education and training will also help to fight some of the myths of surrounding cooperative. Which are these myths? The first myth is that cooperative does not need revenue and profit to survive and to fulfill the economic and social role. Cooperative are not profit organizations. Cooperative are firms, are enterprise. They cannot ignore balancing account and producing objective profit and reserve. The second one is cooperative do not necessarily have to be small. If cooperative are enterprise, are firms, as recalled before, their size vary according to the area in which they operate, their business success and national circumstance. The third one is cooperative don't play an insignificant economic role. Another myth is that cooperative sector play an insignificant economic role. In many European countries, as well in Asia or in America, the cooperative sector is an important part of the economy. In Italy, the sector has over 60,000 companies with approximately 1 million of employees. Universities should therefore offer courses on cooperative sector because it's a huge market to be exploited. The fourth one is the global role of the cooperative system. Many argue that there is only room for expansion of the cooperative sector in developing countries in the service that cater for the most disadvantaged members of the society. It's not true. Cooperative enterprises have demonstrated in Italy and through the world that they can operate in all sectors, including the manufacturing, industry, building and construction, agriculture, banking and insurance, and the retail industry. They also operate in the electricity production sector, higher education, telecommunication, advanced service, and creative industry. With time, the mission and therefore the challenges of the diversity of cooperative may change. Whatever in the past, small food co-ops had to guarantee, above all, low prices, today they focus on excellent quality and sustainability of the supply chain. Wherever in the past, cooperative banks and cooperatives were the only ones that provide service to the working class, today the mission is to be local bank for small business and the third sector. Wherever in the past, electric cooperative were the only one to bring power to the mountain village, today their mission is to sell green sustainable energy on the national grid. This is educating on diversity. Another role of cooperative is educating on market competition. With the time, the mission, and therefore the challenges of the diversity of cooperative may change. Wherever in the past, small food co-ops are to guarantee of low of price, today they focus on excellent quality and sustainability of the supply chain. Okay, sorry. And I try to give some idea just to open our round table and to speak with the other part of the table. I will use this idea that I found out in the speech. So the role of the ideas, the role of the institutions, and the role of the education about the ideas and the institutions. I think it's very important to speak about the idea and institution. Also, if you speak about, of course, sustainable development and the circular economy. In the last century, probably the main economists of the last century, John Maynard Keynes, said in the general theory that are the ideas more than individual that are important for the well or for the bad. When we speak every day, sometimes we focus our attention on the person and not on ideas. But I think it is very important to focus our attention on the ideas, especially when you speak about the cooperatives. And especially when you have to speak about the new kind of development model, like in this case, when you introduce the concept of a sustainable development and circular economy. So, I can give the floor. You can take the floor?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Excuse me. Perfect. All right. Well, first, let me thank you very much. My name is Jos Bijman. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a professor in the field of business administration. First, I would like to thank Asia for kindly inviting me to come here. I would like to thank Professor Mazzanti for also hosting and the University of Ferrara. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here and to join this round table. But may I first have some introductory slides, a little bit about myself and about my research and what I think is important from a more a business administration perspective if we talk about cooperative, circular economy, and sustainability. Does it work? Well. I had to touch the other one. Okay. No. Yeah. Yeah, this works. Perfect. Okay, so I'm a professor at the Wageningen University. I don't expect anyone to be able to pronounce that, but, because we have in the Netherlands, we have this nice. It's a small university dedicated to life sciences. And I'm also connected to the Humboldt University in Berlin in Germany, the Institute of Cooperative Studies. My focus of my research is on business collaboration. So how and why do companies collaborate? And then, of course, with a specific focus on cooperative, otherwise I wouldn't be here. And not just any type of business collaboration, but basically all of our research focuses on business transformation towards more sustainable society. And so how do and how can businesses help and act towards a more sustainable society? So that's the focus. And again, my individual, my personal niche in that broad field is the cooperative. And since Wageningen University has a tradition in agriculture, now we say it's a bit broader, it's life sciences. I still focus a lot on cooperatives, on business collaboration in the agri-food industry. One of my current projects is called CoFresh. It's a European research project and where we also look at business collaboration in the fruit and vegetable supply chain and how different types of collaboration, not just strategic alliances, but also all kinds of platform, all kinds of networking, collaboration, not just between businesses and businesses, horizontal collaboration like in cooperatives, vertical collaboration like in a value chain, but also what we see increasingly is collaboration between businesses and NGOs, businesses and civil society organizations, where both parties see the benefit of moving businesses basically forward towards a more sustainable strategy. So that's typically something we develop in the CoFresh project. But I'm also here because I am chair of the International Cooperative Alliance Committee on Cooperative Research. It's a long word, it's a mouthful, it's actually a small committee. The ICA, you may be familiar, the International Cooperative Alliance is an apex, is a global organization that promotes cooperatives around the world. It has national members. These national members have local and regional members. And within this large organization, there is a committee on cooperative research. This one is focusing on European research. That means European researchers. They come together every year. This year it will be in Dundee in Scotland, 24th to 26th of June. If you allow me to make some advertisement here. There is still an opportunity to send in some abstracts if you want to present a paper at this conference. Officially, the deadline has passed, but since I'm close to the organizer, then there is still an opportunity there to send in maybe via me or well, talk to me. If you talk to your supervisor, if there is a little bit of budget. And you'll have a great conference with about 150 to 200 people that are all working on cooperative. They're all doing research on cooperative. And this is not just business like my field, but it's legal scholars, it's sociologists, it's economists, it's historians, it's people focusing more on policies, it's organizational theory, all kinds of fields, disciplines, multidisciplinary initiative, everybody that is engaged in research and in teaching on cooperative in Europe will be actually meeting next June in Scotland. So please be welcome to join the community. Well, let me skip advertisement for my own university. It's a great university, of course, but since we have limited time, just a few points about cooperatives. Cooperatives are important in the Netherlands, in my country. They're particularly important in agriculture, in financial services. We have about 3,300 still active, and I explicitly say active because we probably all know that there are also cooperatives that are registered cooperative but are more sleeping. 80% of the GDP is covered by a cooperative, 25 million members. We have 18 million inhabitants in the Netherlands, so almost one every inhabitant is a member of almost 1.5 cooperative. And what we've seen recently is a lot of growth in energy cooperative. The first speaker already said something about, mentioned particularly the energy community, the energy cooperative. I think that was a very interesting statement. But also in the Netherlands, energy cooperatives are explicitly growing a lot. We now have about 700, more than 700 energy cooperatives throughout the country. There are different types. They have windmills, they have solar panels, they manage the grid, they do all kinds of activities related to this renewable energy source. But as a researcher, I'm particularly interested in getting clear what is the business part of the cooperative. Maybe there we should, and knowing the diversity of cooperatives, those of you who work on cooperatives usually say, okay, I work on consumer cooperative or producer cooperative or worker cooperative. Well, I'm more engaged in producer cooperative. That is my field. But it's important to be explicit about this. We talk about cooperatives because consumer cooperatives are different from producer cooperatives. There are interesting issues, interesting projects going on where we try to link the two. For instance, in food, where there are some initiatives where all around Europe, where producer cooperatives, farmer cooperative link up directly with consumer cooperative, or the other way around. So, but that's there is some a recent conference of this ICA-CCR. There were some interesting papers about this topic. So, but let me focus more a bit on my real field. So, if you study cooperatives, they're from a business perspective, you can take quite a number of different disciplinary perspectives: supply chain management, institutional theory. What is the legitimacy of the cooperative? Are the cooperatives more legitimate than others? How can they gain legitimacy? Innovation management. What type of innovations are actually taking place? What type of innovations are the cooperative focusing on? I give you a few examples and further down the line. Cooperatives can work on cooperatives in terms of their strategy. So they can explicitly say, I mean, for an renewable energy cooperative, that is not a big issue because they are almost by nature working on sustainability. But if you have a manufacturing cooperative, a worker cooperative, if you have a traditional agricultural cooperative, that may not be automatically or inherently focusing on sustainability issues. So there is a choice to be made. And this choice has been made because it's a democratically decision-making organization by the members. Well, not and preferably by approval from all the members, but they don't necessarily are all excited about it. So there is an issue there of decision-making, which has some pros and cons in terms of the outcome towards more sustainability. Of course, sustainability, we talk a lot about sustainable development goals. What we see also in the cooperatives that we have been studying is that they explicitly focus on 1, 2, 3, or 4 sustainable development goals. But what they're also very concerned about, like any other type of business, is this reporting on cooperative, the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance reporting that is becoming mandatory under European legislation. So that's an issue that we sustainability for businesses and for others. It's a wicked problem. It's not an easy problem to cover. Of course, you can say I save a lot of some energy, but that's not that's not the main point. If we all want, or if businesses want to make a serious transition towards a more sustainable society, then it is about ideas. It is about institutions. It is about education. It is about organizational culture. There's much more that has to change than just a little bit of strategy. So it's about norms and values. There's a public good issue there. You can do individually a lot, but how much influence does that have on the global issue? So I found this very interesting example of Italy joining forces with a vertical farm. So it's a very interesting example, I think, of cooperatives, cooperatives working. Also promoting sustainability in the field of agriculture. And one of the key questions that we have to ask, are cooperatives better than other enterprises in that transformation towards sustainability? Initially we said, yes, of course, because they're cooperative. And there are very good examples and there are very good arguments to say yes. But in the end, as scientists, we also want to have proof. We want to provide evidence. So that's what I urge and what I encourage you to do. Really go into the research and come up with the evidence that cooperatives maybe in general are doing very good in the sustainability transition. And here are some arguments where that can support you. They're purpose-driven, not just profit-driven. They have participatory or democratic decision-making. They care for communities, different types of communities, rural, consumer, worker communities, and they promote the fair distribution of benefits. I did some research myself on how cooperatives, particularly in the field of agriculture, can actually promote and help and support their own members, and these members are farmers, to become more cooperative, more sustainable. If we talk about cooperatives and sustainability, sometimes we have to make a distinction between the cooperative as an organization and the members as separate entities. Particularly if the research is about cooperative businesses, producer cooperative, then these members are businesses, enterprises themselves. So there's actually, if you want to measure sustainability, you could or should measure at two levels. Well, here I found some arguments where a corporate or some tools basically that cooperatives can apply to help their members making more sustainable production decisions in economic incentives, material support, knowledge and skills. Knowledge and skills is very important, organizing change. What we actually see among the cooperatives in the Netherlands, that they are organizing more and more dialogues among their members, because they know from the cooperative that it's very important to have that change. But the members, they all have different ideas because, again, it's about values and individual values and norms. So what we see is that they organize dialogue because it requires interaction among the members to come up with a consensus, to come up with a joint decision for the cooperative as a whole to move forward in this sustainability transition. Finally, a few from an organizational point of view, do specific characteristics of the cooperative influence its sustainability strategy or sustainability performance? If they explicitly have a sustainability strategy, yes, of course. If they are particularly set up for energy and renewable energy, for promoting community development, for social purposes. But I'm particularly interested also in these organizational issues, in terms of the democratic decision-making. How does it help or not? In terms of their ownership structure, members are owners, so how does it help or not? Well, there are at least a few arguments to put forward in democratic decision-making. Yes, on the one hand, the consensus decision-making may take a little longer than if there weren't a cooperative, there was autocratic decision-making. But the benefit is that once you have an agreement, there is higher commitment to implement the sustainability strategy. In terms of ownership structure, it may be not easy to get additional funding because most of the funding should or usually comes from the members. They may not have a lot of money to put in their cooperative. It's not easy to go to the stock exchange and get some additional funding from outside investors. And as a cooperative, you don't even want that. And the benefit what is the benefit for all of the members should also be very clear. But the benefit for the cooperative as a whole also is there is no risk. There's the risk type of investment, or the risky investment usually is much lower in a cooperative. So yes, there are some organizational characteristics to a cooperative that do influence the type of choices that cooperatives as a business is making. With that, I want to finalize my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Francesca?
Okay, shall I have to move?
Okay, without any question, feel free.
Now,
Yeah, of course. Feel free.
maybe the questions
Later.
later.
Yes, with
Shall
the.
we switch?
No, you don't need to change places.
Oh,
You can
okay.
see it from the left and you use the keyboard, so you're all good to go.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. So actually, I have a few slides, but it's not really a presentation, but I just want to thank you everyone for this invitation, for inviting me to this event, because here at the university, because it's important for the cooperative movement, the Italian cooperative movement, but the European and the international cooperative movement to be more visible. So we are very much interested in getting more and gaining more visibility, especially within the academia, because we still suffer from lack of knowledge and visibility, which makes this movement and this business model still not very much known among young people, for example, and that's really a problem. So if I have to give you an answer, let's say that education is fundamental for us, because we have, if we want to survive, if we want to grow, we have to widespread also the principles and the values of the cooperative enterprise movement. So thank you very much to the organizers. I'm Francesca Montalti, and I would like just to spend some words about my experience and about the place where I work. So there's something a little bit strange on the, okay. I've been working in the cooperative movement since 2006, so it's quite a lot. It's almost 18 years at different level and holding different positions, especially with regards to business development and promotion of innovation among the cooperatives. I'm currently head of the industrial sector, so I in Lega Coop Produzioni e Servizi, which is the sectoral association belonging to Lega Coop, which is the main cooperative association in Italy, representing cooperatives in different sectors, many sectors. So I work, our association is a business association, so we represent our members' interests as like any other business association. We try to safeguard their interests, but we are also movement. So we promote the cooperative culture, cooperation among cooperatives, and we also work for the promotion of new cooperatives. And so we have this kind of double face aspect and in what we in our daily work. So we work for our existing companies, supporting their development, but at the same time we try to build more than that. So we, of course, we adhere to the to the values of the International Cooperative Alliance. And as for my some figures about our association, we are 2,000. Our association represents over 2,400 cooperatives, worker cooperatives. So we have different. We represent a different perspective. Worker cooperatives operating in the manufacturing and in the service sectors. So it's a kind of it's a different view from the production sector. It was mentioned before. Our companies, our associate companies, have a turnover around amounting to 16.5 billion euro altogether, and they provide employment to almost 150,000 workers. So it's a quite important movement, a quite important network. It is widespread all over throughout the national territory, but there is in some territories, there's, let's say, a more intensive presence, like in Emilia-Romagna, where the most important worker cooperatives are located, especially in the industrial sector that I follow, that I'm responsible for. Speaking about the business sectors of our cooperatives, we go from industry, manufacturing, through construction, logistics, transport, multi-services, but also consulting, ICT, electronics, engineering. So it's quite, there are very different business sectors. Some of them work mainly for the private sector, for example, in the service field. Some of them, for example, industry, of course, they have the private sector as their main target. So different needs, different business development needs, and we try to help them out with their development. As for the industrial sectors, my department is composed by almost 280 cooperatives. So it's not a huge number of cooperatives, but it's very interesting. It's a quite peculiar phenomenon throughout Europe because we associate the most ancient industrial cooperatives in Europe. The most important are located in Emilia-Romagna. Some of them have more than 100 years of history. For example, we will see Sacmi and Ceflawe that are located in Imola, nearby Bologna. And they are very much, they are deeply rooted in the territory where they have born, but they have a wide network all over the world. So they have offices, production, distribution, and service companies all around the world. So they are very well developed. They are very innovative. They work in innovative fields, and they are also world-leading companies in different business sectors. You can see there, we put some data about the companies. It's not important, we can leave it. So this is our association, and coming back to what Salvatore said before, it's not true that cooperatives have to be small, and they can be also large companies, but we have also medium and small industrial cooperatives in other. So it's possible to have this kind of balance. It depends on the local and territorial development and the opportunities that the ecosystem can provide to the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So it depends very much on the place where they have born. So coming back to the main topic, to today's topic, and to the topic of sustainability, of course, I think it's already clear that we can say that cooperatives are sustainable by nature. we told that about a couple of times. So it's true, and all our companies, associated companies, they adhere to the United Nations SDGs, and the association, of course, promotes the diffusion of these principles and values among the cooperatives. So cooperatives have a reporting, more and more we see this movement, so they are interested also in reporting their activity and giving evidence to the results and to the activities that they organize in their company. Of course, the sustainability is seen as a process by our company, so it's not only environment, it's not only something you have to do because there's a directive or a new regulation coming from the European Union. So it's a process, and it has to combine economic, social, and environmental elements altogether. So this integration is important, and this, I think, it's very well acknowledged by our companies. As for example, just allow me to give you some examples of. Because yes, it's easy to make this statement, and just said before, we need some evidence. That's true, because when we talk about cooperatives, we always say that they are sustainable, but are they really sustainable? And are they really sustainable, for example, in the manufacturing sector, where all the companies compete on the same market, and our cooperatives are on the market with private companies in very traditional sectors? This is a challenge for our companies, which are, of course, moving forward towards a more sustainability profile. And they are doing a lot of activities, and they are carrying out a lot of projects, especially in the energy transition, and in circular economy. Our companies, our most important industrial companies, for example, are investing a lot in new technologies for decarbonization purposes. For example, SACMI has just, this is I think a very important result for the cooperative movement, has just developed the first 100% hydrogen kiln for the production of tiles. And so this will have a huge impact on an energy-intensive sector like the one of ceramics all over the world, because they are leader at the international level for the production of machinery and plants for the ceramic sector. So this is a project that will have an impact, so environmental, but also an impact in terms of business models, different business models that the companies will be forced to implement. So this is an example. We have a very small cooperative, a research spin-off from the University of Genoa, for example, which has developed a technology for the production and storage of hydrogen that can be applied to the sailing sector, for example. So that are some examples with that I think it's important to underline because there's a huge investment in innovation. So it's so we are cooperatives, but we invest in our future, and maybe because not maybe just because we are cooperatives and we have to invest in our future. I will also give some example on circular economy projects, and then I will give you the floor, because we have investments. Our cooperatives are investing their assets built over time, for example, in new solutions to recycle the waste they produce and to reuse it in their production process. This is quite normal. I mean, many companies are moving towards this because they're doing everything with their own resources. Sometimes we don't have so much support from, apart from the EU Transition Fund, it's difficult to support this kind of reconversion, and many companies are reconverting, manufacturing companies. So we are in a process where a lot of investments and finance is fundamental to change our to change our strategy. So it's this is one of the main challenges of the transition process, but we are trying to move forward. And the other thing I would like to say, it's about the commitment to the of our companies and also of Lega Coop towards the implementation of the EU policy on critical and strategic raw material. So we are working on this strategy. We are trying to with research partners and universities to help our companies to use better their resources for their production process. And what makes different these initiatives from the other initiatives that private companies are carrying out? Maybe because we are cooperatives and our particular business model helps us in doing that. So if I have to stop here, I stop here. And I'm pleased if you have questions.
Thank you.
Available.
Thank you, Francesca. No, we have 20 minutes before to have other questions to you and Jos. Probably I want to ask to the students if you have any questions. Oh, thank you. If you introduce yourself just by name. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Alessandro Montanaro, PhD student from Ferrara. So small personal story, and then I will pose my question. My father is a farmer. We have a small olive oil farm in Puglia, South Italy. And we begin with working with a cooperative in Abruzzo, another region, since 2017. Since we started working with this cooperative, we increased our profit margins because of more purchasing power in the market, and we started to adopt some eco-innovation, water drip system, for example, for olive oil, that is an eco-innovation patent from Israel. So starting from this small story, small anecdote, my question is, in your opinion, I'm asking to all three of you, is it right, is it a good strategy to frame the cooperative solution as a dimension solution, as something that can fix small firm dimension, micro firm dimension, especially affecting Italy? So I'm talking both about productivity and innovation adoption. And second, if this is the case, it could be that maybe cooperative can have some beneficial effect from dimension while mitigating negative effect of dimension, such as lower wages. Sorry, I don't want to say that big companies give lower wages, but I just want to say that a big cooperatives in respect to a big enterprise, I would expect a high level of wage for the big cooperatives respect to the standard firm. So I want just to add a little bit of provoke sentence here. What are you thinking about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Cooperative is enterprise. This is very important in my opinion.
Sorry?
Cooperative is enterprise. It's not
sorry.
no profit.
Sorry, yeah, I did that. Without versus not cooperative.
No, not for you, just to underline, because I think it's important to remind this point, because sometimes, just one point, before in my introduction, I speak about that importance of cooperative, about to key, is a central key to change the development model, but and I think to educating to the diversity of cooperative is very important to change the development model. But what we don't need is the fundamentalism of cooperative. Why? In this moment, we have two kinds of fundamentalism, of the private firm, of the public firm. Probably many of you study on handbook of economics, but you didn't find on this handbook cooperative firms. But cooperative is 18% of Netherlands GDP, is 10% of Italian GDP, but you didn't find on the book. I think that we need to change the development model, the biodiversity of firms. We need all kinds of firms. We need the private firms, we need the public firms, we need the cooperative firms. You have to know that cooperative firms is very important, but cooperative firm doesn't not cover all kind of situation. In different situation, we need different firms. I think we need to be different by public and the private fundamentalism. We don't need to reply public and private fundamentalism with cooperative fundamentalism. We need the biodiversity idea of presence of the firm and the market. I don't know if you want to reply, Jos, Francesca.
It's also on the agricultural sector.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wageningen.
Yes,
The stress probably is not correct.
Wageningen is agriculture by nature, by
yes and no.
I know.
This is public, right? No, we have a tradition. Our university is more than 100 years old, so we have a tradition in agriculture, but we have moved the last 20 years much further into all broadly life sciences. So it's about food, it's about farmers, but it's also about consumers. It's about food health, consumer health, and it's about the natural environment. Anyway, that's Wageningen University. It's very broad. So sustainability is actually a key issue within the university. Everybody is somehow doing research or teaching on sustainability. But this particular issue, I think, let's focus on the question. If I understand your question correct, is why it's still a good choice for farmers, small farmers, big farmers, to be member of the cooperative and to organize your sales in a cooperative organization, in a cooperative enterprise. Well, that is a long discussion actually among cooperative also. You know, I've been studying cooperatives for 25 years, and 25 years ago, then not many cooperatives, agriculture cooperatives in the Netherlands, but also abroad, emphasized in their marketing that they were a cooperative. So obviously, I always felt that a bit strange, but obviously they didn't feel the need to do that. So it's also a bit of a marketing strategy, and it's a bit of a trend. But certainly after the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, then suddenly everybody realized, investor-owned firm is obviously not the only, is certainly not a good or the best form. We should look for other business forms. And then cooperatives suddenly became much more popular. And then what you also saw among cooperatives, that they started to use the word cooperative in their marketing. So that is, and nowadays I think it's a very positive word. I think consumers, if you say the product comes from farmers themselves, small farmers, but it could even be, but this link to territory, the regional and local connection, I think it makes, from a marketing point of view, it makes sense. So that is good. And then there's the other issue, and that is about bargaining power. So basically, most of the products, food products, reach the consumer through the supermarkets. Supermarkets generally are large companies. So you need to have a certain bargaining power, or you need to have a very unique product. If you have a very unique product, you can afford to stay small. But if you have a commodity or a not so unique product, then it's good to unite and to in a cooperative with other colleague producers and sell your products on a scale that is of sufficient interest for these large retailers, so they can put it in their stores throughout the country or throughout the region. So I think there are at least two good reasons to continue selling products, agricultural products, to a cooperative.
Just a note, my father didn't take part with the farmers' protest of these days, but he called me other day saying, I'm stuck in the traffic because of other farmers. So just...
Thank you. Probably we have time for one more question before the final remarks. Yes. Three questions. Okay. Okay. So we can collect the question. Yeah.
Vado.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Cecilia Budoni. I'm a second year student in this PhD, and especially interested in tourism and cultural management. And thank you for your presentation very much. And I would like to ask you something about generation of value from cooperatives, because we know that cooperatives are seen as something much more sustainable than our enterprises and our business models. But my question is how we can measure and how we can imagine the way and also study reproducible ways of generating value for territories and networks in which cooperatives are inserted. Because we see that cooperatives, especially in this region, are not like standing alone, but they are inserted in a larger network. So how they mix their business models and how they can expand their idea of sustainability on all three sides to other networks, to other enterprises. Also, I think about benefit enterprises or other hybrid forms of firms and enterprises. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please use this microphone.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question.
There is another question, yeah.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I'm Yasami Molanov in this PhD program, but focusing on communication. And I would like to inquire about that, as you said, that cooperative in your company should be in the with environment, society, and your business. And I would like to know that how you want to cooperative and promote your projects with the society and promoting your, because without your project is not to be just be on the innovation investment under universities and different society different companies. It should be come back to the society, and I would like to know how you is the model of your promoting to the society. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have other question? Okay. No more question. Francesca, do you want?
Okay, I'll start with, I would like also to say something, something more on what, about what we were saying before about agricultural cooperatives. I think that we should underline that the specificity of the cooperative business model, And I think that what makes really different the participation of a small agricultural company into a cooperative is the governance model. So, of course, they can get benefits from, of course, cooperatives are established to respond to the shareholders, to the members' needs, and they need to have more visibility on the market. But the governance system, the idea of having people, companies, small companies participating to the decision-making process, I think is key. And that, I think, makes different. So your father, your company's father can say, I do not agree, or okay, this thing is very, very good. Of course, and that's different from any other company experience. So I think this is important to underline. As for the last question, I'll start from your question. If I think about industrial companies, our large-size companies operating in Emilia-Romagna, for example, what can I say? For example, they do a lot of solidarity for their community. That's something which is not, but it's important because the shareholders, the workers live in that community. So solidarity projects mean that these projects have an impact on the community where the workers live, and so this makes the territory less vulnerable, for example. So that's a point, but it is not only that point only. For example, our manufacturing companies have developed their supply chains around their main offices. So there's a growth of the entrepreneurship ecosystem due to the activity of our cooperatives. So I think this is something that it's also very. It's characterizing the business model of this region, for example, of the Emilia-Romagna region, where cooperation is powerful, is very active. So proximity supply chains is something I think that is important. We have something more because I'm also responsible for the establishment of worker buyouts initiatives for Legacoop. So, for example, we, through the establishment of new worker cooperatives, we try to provide an opportunity for people and workers that are at risk of losing their job to retain their job, to maintain their job in that territory, and of course, this is something that is really closely related to the wealth of that territory. So we are able to retain workers, know-how, professional know-how, and to make that territory grow. So this is something that this is peculiar, and we normally work on business crisis generated by capitalistic companies that for many reasons decide that that company has to be closed, but maybe only because there's not a profit sufficient to a high profit sufficient to justify the existence of that company, But then we have made a lot, we have carried out a lot of initiatives in Italy and also in this region, and we have safeguarded a lot of jobs. So this is, I think this is a really direct impact on social and economic development.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, maybe about the question about cooperatives and collaboration among cooperatives, right? That was the question, I think. Well, one of the principles, the ICA principles, or the principles about cooperatives is that cooperatives collaborate among or cooperate among cooperatives. So there is a tradition of cooperatives cooperating with each other. So that is there's a long tradition there, and it's a good thing. But I would like to emphasize that when you are in a transformation and a transition towards more sustainability or more sustainable society, you may have to step out of your comfort zone as a business, even as a cooperative business, and may not just continue only collaborating with your peers, your other cooperatives, but be open for collaboration with other type of organizations. At least what I see among and what I study among cooperatives in the Netherlands, that they have quite a few engagement, collaborations in more or less formal form with all kinds of with societal organizations, but also with other types of businesses, where a dairy cooperative suddenly collaborates not only with a nature conservation organization, because these farmers, they want to produce in a more nature or biodiverse way. So that could be one example. So there is this trend, but it's not easy. I mean, like I said, cooperatives, and also from a business perspective, cooperative managers, board members, they have and are stepping out of their comfort zone. So maybe just leave it there.
Thank you, Jos. Probably now the final remarks by Mattia. No,
maybe
it's your turn.
Yes, please.
Because I do want to emphasize the very important role of education. So in all of this, we're here at the university, so this is an institute of education. I'm a teacher myself. I start my own course on cooperative on Monday. If we all agree on the importance of cooperatives, and if we all agree or would like to agree that cooperatives are a preferred business model, but at the same time, as I was saying, that they maybe should even do better in terms of sustainable performance. Education is a key issue, and what I see that it's very what I see among cooperatives in the Netherlands, that they have realized how important this education is. 10 years ago, if I would call a cooperative and say, I have a group of students and we want to come for an excursion, they would say, I'm not sure I have time. So now if I call them even one day before my course starts, they say, yes, of course, come along, because we want to have students understand the importance of our cooperative. And so things are changing. But, you know, as Salvatore was also saying in his introduction, also, you know, this education for cooperatives continues to be very important. It's not always there. So as teachers, all of us educators, researchers, we have a task. And I think also as cooperative interest organizations like Lego Coop and any other countries, and we work from the ICA with Cooperatives Europe in Brussels, the Apex organization, I think there's a responsibility there to really put more effort in cooperative education, to draw more students to our classes, to make the teaching also exciting with case studies, with excursions, with guest lectures, with games, and all these other modern tools. But yes, also the young generation they have to learn about the benefits of cooperatives. And that's what is our task as a teacher.
Thank you, Jos. If I can synthesize your things, is that we are to invest in, you have to invest more on education, you have to invest more in human capital, so you have to invest more on students.
Absolutely.
Study cooperative. Thank you. Mattia, you take the floor. No, non c'era Mattia, ha fatto male?
Okay, so we will move to the closing words. Yes, if you want to move, or this is still the round table. Okay, sorry. Then we're not, these are not the closing words. Please go ahead and use the microphone because this is stronger. And introduce yourself.
Thank you. When you have a train at 5 o'clock, the conclusions are, I agreed with all the previous speakers, but I agree a lot. My name is Mattia Granata. I am the president of the Centro Studio, as you may be said, but I am an historian, and so maybe I can say something starting from another point of view. But first of all, thank you, Asia, thank you, Ginevra, and thank you, Professor Mazzanti, for the hosting our partnership as Lega Coop, as you have seen, with Università di Ferrara, and especially with this department, is very, very fair and very productive. Are you nervous? Do you think I can say something strange?
So I know. These closing words, so whatever you need, I'll put up the slides.
Yeah, very, very short. I think, first of all, we are in a crucial phase, in a crucial moment, talking about the cooperatives and especially the sustainable development. On one end, we have the traditional economic thought, the traditional economic policies, and the traditional way to produce economic growth. And in this case, the cost of transitions will fall on the multitudes of the people, and the rich will be more rich. And we have another way in this crossroads. In the other way, we can try to use the transitions to try to solve and not to increase the inequalities. Obviously, the former way is prevailing, but we have the duty to try to. I heard the word ideas in a previous speech. We have to try to affirm our ideas, and in this landscape, in what cooperation can be useful, I think in practically everything. The cooperative firm was born in a phase, in an age of crisis, and we are living in an age of crisis. And the cooperative was a way to try to react to the crisis, react to the changes, react to the transformations after the first industrial revolution. That was a technological revolution. The impact of the revolution on the communities and on the society was something very close to what we are passing in this age. And the reaction of the societies and the reaction of the communities try with mutualism and self-organization and self-helping, and the cooperative was the result of this trying to react to the changing. So in the theory, but we have seen in the reality too, the cooperative is a leverage to try to solve the change, the consequences of the changing, or the transformations. And you talk about the industry, the different kind of cooperatives in the different sectors. I put just one from my point of view. The agri-food supply chains, for example. In Italy, this complex that is agribusiness, fishing, food, transportation, logistics, and GDO, the retails, the big retails, and catering is a long supply chains that cubes almost 200,000 employees, almost 7 million members, and 38 billion production value. So this could be a leverage for the changing, a leverage for the spread of the sustainability and consumption, and very powerful. So we have a lot of tools to produce and to intervene with this changing. But the first one is, and today we are talking about this, is education and the increase of the knowledge in this field. So thank you Massimiliano, thank you Ginevra, thank you Asia. We could be surely work a lot in the future, also in the future. Thank you.
For the closing words, I invite the speakers, if you wish, to sit down as well. And I introduce Massimiliano Massanti, Director of the Department of Economics and Management, and coordinating the project as well for the closing words. I will put up the slide.
Closing word. It's 3 minutes, I swear. So thanks for being here. And on Friday, we are going to close in really 4:45 with coffee outside. Just a few words. Thanks Geneva for organizing. Thanks all of you for organizing this event. Okay, just a few slides. One is to not the first one, to share with you the two communities or research centers, which is you may connect to. SEEDS, which is now connecting 12 Italian universities around ecological economics innovation. So we lead. We created SEEDS 10 years ago, more than 11, and we have different universities. So you can connect to social media. The Churches is now extended to 4 departments. It is circular economy. In the Innovation Research Center, we now have economics and management, but also chemistry, environmental sciences, and engineering. So there are platforms and communities to create projects together. Second message, this slide we have shared over the last 4 or 5 years. It's the multiple transitions a framework of the report we published forum with the European Environment Agency in 2020. No, go back. So we see the different transitions. So the challenge is to connect labor technological transitions, the environmental transitions, the fiscal, financial. So everything has to be enhanced and to be integrated through policies, through innovation, through strategies. So the challenge for cooperatives. So final slide. That's maybe a part of my life. And I don't have maybe no. It doesn't work here. But okay, just to say that why this Emilia Romagna? I was born in Bologna. I've lived in Bologna for 30 years, but I grew up in the countryside, in Argenta back there. And I studied in Lugo di Romagna for happy years. Okay, so it's a typical Emilia Romagna guy, and I grew up in areas where cooperatives were really relevant, with successes, failures as well. Okay, So the question mark was, when I launched, also thanks to Salvatore, we have interacted for years. I think that the question, the research questions and the question marks maybe were, when we launched this project some years ago, is this model of organizing capitalism something which is not just in Romania and Tuscany, but something really peculiar to those regions and not exportable or no? Okay. And second, is this model of capitalism which interacts with typical capitalism, because cooperatives are competing in a global society, kept or coherent, or let's say, if better, connected to the challenge of tackling the multiple transitions? So that's the question mark, and the question marks research questions that Asia, Geneva, and other scholars may want to address. So this is, I think, the challenge. The very final food for thought in terms of research question with Salvatore and others, we developed this idea that I think is worth testing, of a kind of a sort of biodiversity, in terms of testing whether a richer biodiversity in terms of different firms in a region, not just profit, non-profit, but also small, big, different sectors, is something that may enhance the possibility of that given region or system to cope with the challenges. So not just cooperatives, but also cooperatives with other type of firms together. So the more biodiversity, or the richer biodiversity is in economic terms, and the better the possible performance of the system. So having said that, some food for thought. Again, thanks. Okay.
So as we've come to an end, I just wish to make one last closing words, just thanking everybody for being here today. Again, for all the entities that have supported us, I thank you very much. Our project, Climate Circular COP, has a community. You're free to join even though you're not involved necessarily into the project. But the idea here is to make community, and also to Mattia Granata, Massimiliano Mazzanti, Salvatore, Jos, all the others, Francesca, who've participated and traveled far to be here. So thank you very much. To the next time.